Hey there, welcome to the Good Stuff Podcast. On this episode, I got the opportunity to talk to Kara Brown, Superintendent for the Union County Board of Developmental Disabilities, to talk about their levy and how they serve our community on an ongoing basis and how they've been doing that for a long time. So I learned a few things. Hopefully you'll stick around and learn a few things. There is a levy on November 4th. So if you're watching this before November 4th, 2025, hopefully this is a little education for you to help make a more informed decision on that levy. So just in case you're new here, my name is Derek Schwinn. I've been in this community since 1993, became a real estate agent in 2013 as a way to serve the community in a way that interacted with and built relationships with residents, got involved in different organizations and different things. And out of that came Good Stuff Marysville, a way to tell the story about our community and talk about the good stuff going on here in our community. And so that's where the podcast came from. I also created a marketing business out of that. So if you need help selling your house, promoting your business, or just talking about the good stuff you've got going on here in our community, I would love to be of service to you any way I can in those areas or anything else, I guess. But without further ado, here's the conversation with Kara. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Kara, thanks for getting up. I was going to say bright and early, but we are doing this early in the morning before it's even light out. So
bright isn't a thing, but early is.
Well, especially when it's raining. So would you like to tell everybody a little about yourself?
Sure. My name's Kara Brown. I'm a superintendent with the Union County Board of Developmental Disabilities. I'm also the superintendent with the Hardin County Board, but that's not about today. So I have been here since 2002 in various capacities, moved my family here in 2003, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Good place to be. So I guess, how'd you get here? I don't even know.
Well, so I was living in Columbus, working in Pickaway County at the time, saw a posting for the Union County Board, didn't know where Union County was. I'm not from Ohio originally, so took a chance, and they took a chance on me, and 23 years later, I'm still coming in every day, so it's been a good gig.
Good stuff. It seems like that's a common story for the community people. I don't know, Marysville, then they stick around.
Yeah, it was interesting. We used to drive through here all the time going to Indian Lake, and I always thought, Marysville's an interesting community. Didn't know anything about it, and here I am.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the point of the podcast is good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good place to be, So
yeah.
Try to focus on all that.
It is a good place to be. Good place to raise kids. So
amen to that. All right, so why are we here today? I just wanted to point out that if you've seen these, this is what we're doing.
So as you showed, that is we support Union County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Not only do we want to educate the community about what we do, we also have a renewal levy on the ballot next Tuesday that's pretty important to what we do and the people we serve.
So today is the 20th, I'm not even sure.
The 30th.
Thursday before. Yeah, the 30th. Okay, losing track. So you have a couple of days to see this and hopefully go educate yourself and make an educated vote. So that's what we're here to do today. So would you like to start with the levy or a little backstory? Or maybe not backstory, but I feel, maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of times I have these conversations, I'm wanting to better understand the Board of DD. Like, I've heard it. My wife, has been around it enough, and do I really know what it is? So I think sometimes it helps to have a clear, more simple understanding of what is it, what does it do, why does it do it?
I think it's a great question that most people don't really understand unless they've had a reason to be involved with us. And so our role is to serve people with developmental disabilities in our community from birth through the end of life. A lot of people will say, if you don't have the preschool, or years ago, you don't still have UCO, now UCO, what do? We're not a place, we're a service. And so a lot of what we do is help families and people with disabilities navigate all the resources and the systems that are out there to support them. And so the bulk of our services, our actual services, is our case management. So we get in with families, we sit down and we find out what their needs are, spend a lot of time getting to know them, and then try to match what we know exists with what funding we have to help them get what they need to live a more full and meaningful life within our community.
What's a basic situation there? I guess I'm thinking there's a deficiency that needs to be fulfilled. And I mean, is there a easy example of, they have a challenge with this, so we serve with this?
So easy, maybe not, but I'll do my best. For example, a developmental disability we hear a lot about today is autism. And so folks with autism may need assistance with finding behavioral intervention services, with behavior modification services. Families a lot of times need help finding respite caregivers. You and I may be able to ask the neighbor kid to babysit for us. If I have a child with a developmental disability and special needs, I probably need somebody who has a little more training, a little more understanding. So we help them find people and then also help them pay for that, because I don't even know what the going rate is for babysitting today, but I'm probably not paying the going rate. It's going to be something more because I need I need more expertise than that.
Yeah, specialized care.
So that's an example. Another example might be you have an adult child with autism or with Down syndrome. I'm an adult with Down syndrome. I want to be independent. I want to spend some time on my own, but I need support to do that. So, for instance, I may live in my own apartment, but I need help with going to the grocery store, having somebody help me understand how to pay for it when I'm done, taking it home, cooking the meal, all those day-to-day things that we take for granted that somebody else may need prompts to do. So it can really run the gamut from a couple of hours a week to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, depending on a person's needs. So it really is person-specific and disability-specific.
It sounds like, you have the tangible, let's say they need a wheelchair, you can help with a wheelchair or whatever, something tangible. But it sounds like just as much the intent is to help give people community around something that they've never experienced. Because, I think the families that don't know how to deal with it, they're trying to help figure it out. And it sounds like you guys are just as much of a, with casework and somebody to go, go alongside them and help navigate the waters.
I think one of the most important things we can do as a county board is not just support the people with disabilities. I think we have a responsibility to bring our community along. So I remember being young in the field. Actually, it was my very first interview, and being overwhelmed and intimidated by the person with a disability sitting next to me, because I didn't really know how to communicate with a person with a disability, which in hindsight was silly because you communicate just like you do with anybody else, but I didn't know that. So how do we help bring our community along in understanding how to interact with people with disabilities? Because they bring a lot to the fabric of our community. There's a lot of value in what a person with a disability can do. They may think differently, see the world differently, and there's a lot of value in that. And so how do we help people with disabilities become part of the fabric of our community? But we have a responsibility to bring our community along, because if we don't help educate the community, I'm going to make the assumption they're just as intimidated as I was the first time I met a person with a disability. So our responsibility is as much to the community and exposing them and educating them about how to interact with people with disabilities as it is just serving people with disabilities.
That's very good. So great questions from my intern. Leads right into that. So the first one she had was, how do we, or can we, I added, people or organizations in town help uplift those with disabilities? Got an example of?
So one of the easy things I think that local entities can do is people with disabilities are looking for jobs just like everybody else. That's a service that we help pay for. So while we don't provide a lot of the specific services, we have a responsibility to pay for those services. And when I say responsibility, it's not just because we want to. It's required within our laws and rules within the state that we pay generally about 40% of that cost through what's called a Medicaid waiver service system. But that's not important for today as much as talking about how can entities assist. So if you need an employee and you want somebody who will show up regularly, be on time, work hard, we've got people with disabilities looking for jobs. That's an easy way. Another easy way would be just being welcoming. I would say put that purple sign in your window and we're going to know you're a welcoming entity. But I think just being welcoming, understanding that somebody with a disability may need a little extra assistance, or they may act a little bit differently than everybody else that comes into your store, but that's something to be embraced, not something to turn away from.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it is a challenging, you don't, obviously those that care, most do. You don't want to say the wrong thing, or, when you don't understand something, can be a little intimidating. And so I've definitely had that at times of, I don't want to, it's kind of, maybe the easier thing or something more people have experienced. A lot of people have a hard time with when somebody they know had a loss in their family and had somebody pass away. A lot of times I don't want to say the wrong thing, so you don't say anything, so kind of equate it to that of just say something, I guess. And
just say something. What would you say to a person without a disability? Because I would challenge you to not see the disability, just see the person, and then interact accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. All right, let's see. So another interesting thing that I saw, so our youngest, Lulu, goes to
Mini Monarch Academy now.
Thank you. I keep wanting to say Harold Lewis, but
well, it's Mini Monarch Academy at Harold Lewis Center.
Harold Lewis, yeah. Well, it's kind of like Mexican Uptown is still Casa Fiesta, not Fiesta Grande.
Right.
It's hard to change it. But anyway, there for trunk or treat the other night, and some of your staff was there for the equipment library, I think, or what?
Mm-hmm.
That was seems like a unique thing, and I mean, you guys do have to say, your marketing and getting out there seems pretty nice. You guys are.
Thank you. Our team is doing a really good job of getting out our brand, our name. You mentioned the lending library. Our grand opening is Monday with the Chamber of Commerce. That's exciting because that's an opportunity for us to assist families in a way that maybe we haven't been able to in the past. So if you have a short-term need for some piece of equipment, I'll give you an example. Maybe your child just had surgery and you need an adjustable bed. We've got an adjustable bed that you can try out, see if it's going to work for you, because there's lots of different kinds of equipment, and not every piece of equipment is going to do what you want it to do. And the equipment is expensive. So it gives us the opportunity to have it and then loan it out to our families. And, for that matter, we want to be supportive to the community. If there's something that you need and you don't have a developmental disability, reach out to us. We might be able to help. One of the examples, I think it's part of the lending library. We've got our accessible changing trailer, which some of you may have seen out in the community. Mm-hmm. If you've never either been a person who uses a wheelchair and needs mobility assistance, or haven't directly helped someone on a regular basis, you may not think about what it means to need an accessible changing space. So what this space offers is a place for, if you have a wheelchair, it has a wheelchair lift. You can get up into the trailer, and then it has a changing table. So think about what you see in infant changing tables, only adult sized. And so it will lower down to 18 inches and raise up. I can't remember what the height is, but so that I as a caregiver don't have to bend over. The adult on the table is safe, and it's big enough for the adult, and now I can assist that person with their personal care needs when I go to an event like Festifair or some of the other uptown events that we have. Whereas before I might have had to leave after an hour because I've got to get back and help somebody with their personal care needs. So that's an example of something we can lend out if somebody needs it.
So for events, you're saying if somebody has an event?
Yes, absolutely.
Like Festifair, or I've seen it a few different places.
Absolutely. We would love to have it as many places as possible. And that's another one that I would say, if you're a veteran, if you're a senior citizen, if you're hosting an event that caters to people who don't have developmental disabilities but may have the need for accessible changing spaces, we'd love to loan that out to you as well. We want to be a part of the community and support our community beyond the greater good, or not beyond the greater good, but beyond just who we serve.
Right. Going back to the community aspect, that's kind of what this is all about. This is all everybody trying to come together as a community to serve one another and all of those things. Any others? So the levy. Why don't we talk about the levy? The fun stuff. I mean, to me, it should be an easy one. It's a renewal.
It is a renewal. I think what makes it complicated is there's a lot of conversation around what's a renewal levy? What's a new levy? Hey, my property values just went up. I don't want to spend any more. Why would I vote yes on this? And I think it is a very complicated topic. And, what I would say is our levy is what's called outside millage. Again, not to get too technical, but what that means is when your property values go up, you don't pay more on our existing levies.
Just like
they
schools.
stay flat.
Right.
And so this levy was originally passed in 2002. And if you owned your house in 2002, you haven't paid any more on this levy since 2002. And so what I would say to people is, please support this levy. It's just below half of our budget, and we can't continue to support people without it.
Things haven't changed, so
things have they've changed, but they've gotten bigger, not smaller.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to say you're as a resident, your costs haven't changed. Everybody knows costs have gone up, so I did a bad job of communicating that the first time. So anyway, you guys are doing more with less, so to speak.
Well, and I think when we highlight that we have almost doubled in size since 2015. So in the last 10 years, we've almost doubled the number of people we're serving. So again, this particular levy hasn't increased since 2002. It's a renewal. It's no new money. It's no new taxes. It's exactly what you're paying today, and that won't change in January of 2026.
Like I said, that seems like it should be pretty simple.
I hope so, but
No
we have to
offensive.
recognize that people are really looking at how they spend their money and critically thinking about what they want to continue doing.
Oh, for sure, and I respect that. It just seems like an easy one to me. How long is this renewal for? I forget if we covered that or not.
We did not. It's a 5-year levy, and again, it must be renewed every 5 years. So we get a lot of questions about, did we approve this already? Yes. It's only good for 5 years. We have to come back every 5 years and ask for you as voters to approve it again.
Yeah, I've heard things from other areas. Somebody in last year talking about school levy. I think they were from Pennsylvania. He was like, where we come from, I forget who, was it the county or the superintendent, which obviously has its own problems, basically was able to say, here's what we need, here's what we get. And obviously corruption and, you need some constriction to not go wild. But to me, I've always thought it's interesting that there's not a system, and maybe some places have it where there's just a adjustment. Other things have an adjustment for cost of living or inflation or whatever. Like, to me, it seems kind of silly. We're just going to renew this every 5 years, or at minimum renew it. And so, but at the same time, I think that's the bigger point is, as a community, we've got to talk about like you said, people are looking at where do you want to put your money, where do you not want to put your money, and it generates the conversation. But obviously, creates its own challenges when you. Maybe that's another question. How much of a mandate, legally, state, county, whatever, do you have of? And that to me seems like a disconnect as well from how things are structured. You have to do this, but do you have the money to pay for it?
And that is a great question. We do have mandates. So again, without getting into the nuts and bolts of what we do every day, we are part of the Medicaid waiver funding system. I'll just say that's a way that we help fund services for people. And our responsibility is to pay 40 cents on every dollar of cost for a person who is on this specialized Medicaid funding system. And so we are mandated to pay that match. And we set a floor almost annually, and those are entitlement services. So once you have them, we can't just reduce them because we feel like it. So for instance, if our funding reduces, we still are mandated to pay that 40% obligation.
That's what I'm getting at. I don't to me, it seems like a disconnect. You have to do it, but only if you want to pay for it. Or only if the people want to pay for it.
But we don't have a choice. We have to pay for it. Once that floor is set. So for instance, our current and again,
Yeah,
people
sorry.
don't care about the nuts and bolts, but our current obligation is just over $5 million. We do get some state support for that. Our obligation is right around 4.3, 4.5, as long as the state keeps their portion of it. And so if, let's say, for example, the renewal doesn't pass, we have to manage that 4.3, 4.4 million. It has to be paid at the cost of everything else we do. So it
just strips everything down.
It does.
In essence.
It does.
Okay.
And we have to prioritize, and we will, but that is the last thing to be addressed in the case of a funding crisis.
Okay. I mean, I sometimes I like getting lost in the nuts and bolts just to try to understand what doesn't make sense, and because sometimes it seems kind of.
And well, there's lots of nuts and bolts there.
And I don't want to know all of them.
No, you don't.
But either way, again, I think back to my point anyway. Renewal should be pretty easy if we're going on 2002 numbers. Was that a renewal, or that was the last time there was an increase?
That was when this levy was originally passed. This is a 3.8 mil renewal. It was originally passed in 2002.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, anyway, either way, those are forever ago numbers in some sense. And graduating high school in 2004, that was yesterday. No, it wasn't.
It may feel like yesterday, but prices would say otherwise.
Yep, and that's more of my point. Prices have gone crazy, so if these prices haven't changed, that's pretty simple. So get out and vote. Whatever, try not to tell people what to do, but seems like a simple solution to me. So that was one of my other questions. I've been saying director in my head, superintendent.
It's whatever. Just be polite. It's okay.
Yeah. Like from that position, how do you see, and obviously, so this is good stuff, Marysville, Marysville focused, but from a Union County perspective, and I mean, Hardin County, I think, is getting more than they used to, but just the growth that we're experiencing, more people, more stuff, more services needed, if it's this or that. I mean, from your position, how do you view the opportunities, the challenges that we've got as a growing community, as in terms of all of this?
There's no question that the growth is a challenge. There's a lot of good that comes with it too. It gives us the opportunity to constantly reevaluate, and we're not stagnant in any way. So again, that's the opportunity to reevaluate positions, to reevaluate services, to reevaluate needs. The challenge is we're constantly changing, and that is difficult as well. And so we pay a lot of attention to our growth. We've been tracking it for the better part of the last 10 years. So we're not surprised by it. There are times when usually we know where we are with services. It's the infrastructure stuff that sometimes sneaks up on us, but we've embraced it as an opportunity. And just to give you an example, some of the things that have been added into the community recently, our community connections team has started what's called AIM in the school districts, which AIM stands for Advocates in Motion. And it's a way to work with our middle school and high school kids and help educate them about people with disabilities, what they bring to our community, and also how they can be a partner in the conversation around education of the community, in advocating for people with disabilities, and looking around, teaching them to look around their environment and finding the places that maybe are barriers or impediments to people with disabilities accessing what they need and want to be part of the community. So we're trying to teach people at a younger age. And I think it's probably one of our more exciting programs, visible programs that are out there. And the chance to educate young people is, we always say, but the kids are our future. So hopefully we're raising an entire age group of kids that will, when they see a person with a disability in the future, to my point earlier, that they're not intimidated and they see them as another member of our community that they can reach out and help, or maybe that person reaches out and helps them.
I like it. So kind of on that note of training the next generation, another great question. Um, do you need staffing, employees, or volunteers? Is there a way people can get involved? Or maybe train the next generation to get involved was my segue.
The answer is yes and no. Trying to bring in volunteers on a day-to-day basis, that's not necessarily where we need the help, but places like Special Olympics is a great way to get involved with people with disabilities and get to know people, and especially if you're inclined to participate in sports. And we're always looking for coaches and volunteers. That's a really easy way to get involved. Other ways would be, our Levy campaigns. We always are looking for people to help us go out and share the word and share the message. That's really the easy way to volunteer is if you see good stuff happening, tell other people, because there's a lot of people who are never in connection with us because they don't need to be. So, if you're interested, reach out. We'll look for a way to help you volunteer, but to just say we have this program and here's a laundry list of ways, it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, a bit of a specialized thing.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to have the...
Well, and I think the other piece of note there is that we don't really have programs that you can go to. So if you think about volunteering at the school, if I go to the school during normal school hours, hey, can I help somebody learn how to read? Can I help somebody with math? We don't really have a place for you to go to do that. We help people in their own homes. We help people find their own employment. We don't really have groups of people doing things that way.
Other than like Special Olympics and those
exactly.
Kind of, not a whole lot of...
Exactly.
Gotcha. Do people live? Do you have housing of any sort?
Yes, there are. I think we have about 18 different locations. We work through a housing board. It's a technicality of our structure and laws and all of that. But there are about 18 locations that are available. So that is just housing, and those are apartments in the community that are specific to people who have disabilities. So we don't pay the rent. They pay their own rent. But we make sure that there are locations available. We work closely with the state. There's some state funding, and we work with another entity to manage all the properties. But there is some opportunity for that, yes. And usually in those homes then, we have what we refer to flippantly as providers that go in and support people with all their daily needs. Mm-hmm. So think kind of like home health, only more intense than home health.
Gotcha. All right. What was the other thing? Oh, I did have a one little thank you for my opportunity to participate in the now I got to think of the name. Sensory friendly Friday nights uptown.
Okay. So thank you for bringing that up. Our community connections team and their sole responsibility is to look for ways to help people with disabilities become part of their community. And I use the word of with a lot of emphasis because there's a difference between in the community and of the community. In the community, to me, is if you've ever been to a concert or a baseball game and you see a group of people with disabilities come in as a group and they kind of move around just as a group and you don't really see them interacting with people, to me, they're in the community.
Right.
And our intent is to help people with disabilities become part of the fabric of the community. So not just moving around in little groups.
It's kind of like when we go to family reunions, we still sit in our immediate family. We don't necessarily branch. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's one of the main goals of our community connections team. And so you mentioned sensory friendly uptown Friday nights. We hear a lot about autism and some of the sensory needs of folks who have autism. It's not just folks with autism. I get overstimulated pretty quickly, and sometimes I just need a place that's kind of quiet and still. That's the intent of the sensory-friendly Uptown Friday nights, and we've partnered a lot with the Avalon to create a sensory-friendly space inside I think it's inside their lobby during uptown events where maybe it's just more still, it's more quiet. The opportunity to engage in tactile activities. And to many of us, we think, I don't really get it. But to folks who need it, that little bit of a break can make all the difference. And for families, it can make all the difference for their child being able to stay at the event longer, or them only getting 45 minutes, half hour,
Get a break or whatever. And so the other half of it, I take this camera and stream the band into the Avalon Theater. So if you want to experience the band and what's going on, you can go up there in the theater, get some air conditioning, get out of the heat, and all the things. So so it's got a lot of good stuff in the lobby that it's nice to walk. Sometimes I've got to go through and check on things and make sure they're still working, and to see people hanging out there and being of the community, and they're just kind of doing their thing. But also people that'll hang out in the theater to watch.
Absolutely. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that team is incredibly creative and again branching out into the communities in ways that I am thrilled to see us being able to do. And again, I really believe that we as an entity have to be partners in our community. So anytime, if you're a business or you're part of a group and you want to partner, please reach out, because we're looking for ways to collaborate. It's one of our core values, to collaborate within our community in a way that obviously benefits people with disabilities, but benefits the community as well.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that maybe that's the biggest call for volunteerism, is more of the collaboration and just kind of like the lending or the equipment library. I thought, I don't need this. Oh, it's probably good to get this information out. And you never know. I mean, I always love the randomness of life where you never know where connections are going to be made. And so the more you get out and do things and engage and try to spur on the thoughts of how things could work and connection.
Right. Yeah. You brought up the lending library again, just to try to, some people may say, I don't know really why I would need that. If you're going to the beach and you have somebody who uses a wheelchair, now hopefully we have one of these because I can't remember completely, but you may need a beach wheelchair, but why would you buy one? I mean, we don't have a lot of
beaches around here, so.
No. No. But lots of us go to Myrtle Beach or
no, I know. I'm just saying, if you don't have one, there's a good reason.
There's a good reason, right? And hopefully those are the kinds of things we can provide. And again, I would say if you are older and your mobility has changed, or you're a veteran who has mobility needs, reach out to us, because I don't think it's just for people with disabilities. I think it's a way we can give back to the community. Obviously, our focus is people with disabilities. That's our number one priority. But if you have mobility needs or you think you have a need, please reach out. We may be able to help, and that's what we should do.
So we might not have beaches around here, but there are a lot of older guys that like to hunt and whatnot, and I hear that story a lot in different veteran groups around the country that wheelchairs and different accessibility things to go out in nature and fish or hunt or whatever. And so if you don't have a beach one, maybe you get one.
Right.
All terrain.
Hopefully we have one. Otherwise,
Otherwise I got to edit.
Alicia's going to be scrambling to get one really quickly, I'm sure. But we've got a lot of equipment. I think the other really cool thing about this library is it was in some ways born out of the idea that we help people get equipment. It's one of the things we help fund. And then maybe they outgrow it or they don't need it anymore. And rather than
place to store it
and rather than it going by the wayside or sitting in a garage and wasting away, it gives us a chance to repurpose it for other people.
Well, that's a big point, not to get into a different topic, but there's a medical supply place or something over on the other side of this building, and I see some of their stuff they throw in the dumpster. I'm like, I assume somebody could use that, but we just throw stuff away, and so that's awesome.
Right. So it's a way for us to recycle, if you will, and be even better stewards of the taxpayer dollars that we receive by trying to get as much use as possible out of the equipment and meeting the needs of the people we serve.
For sure. Yeah, and obviously if you got the space to do it.
Right.
It's a big thing. Awesome. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, we haven't really touched on our early intervention too much.
That's right.
I think it's an important part of what we do. And so early intervention is a birth to 3 program where if your child has developmental delays, isn't meeting their milestones, we offer not only service coordination, which goes back to what we talked about earlier in terms of helping people find the resources, but we also have highly trained developmental specialists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists that will go into the home and work with the families and the child to help that child meet their developmental milestones. And so to me, what that program brings is the opportunity to never need our services again. So if we can help a child meet their developmental milestones, that family and that child's quality of life for the rest of their life is different. Hopefully it's better. That has to be invaluable to those families. And so, I think it's a really important piece to make sure the community understands that we are able to go out into homes for really small children and make a difference for them.
Well, especially at a time when things aren't easy.
Exactly. Things
Especially
aren't
if it's
easy.
your first
And there's no cost to the families for the service. That's, again, another part of what we're expected to help pay for. So there's no cost to the family. Taxpayer dollars do obviously go to helping pay for that. So people say, what do you do? That's one of the things we do.
I would guess if you had to list all the things you do out, it's probably, I'll jokingly say you probably can't come up with a number because it's numerous enough.
I can't come up with a number.
Keep spreading out, just all the things that a lot to keep up with.
It's as individual as the number of people we serve. Everybody's needs are different.
So that maybe those are some nuts and bolts that are worth mentioning. Like, what is you mentioned some of the budget stuff, but like number of people and it's doubled, and for perspective, I think it's always helpful in these. That's a lot of these conversations. I'm trying to help myself understand, but also get more information out, because you hear the talking points, you hear you see the signs and all the stuff, and sometimes you glaze over what information there is, but just another way to get out, like, what is some more contextual information of like how big is that need, and
So we serve right around 1,000 to 1,100 people. So 10 years ago, it was right around 650. So we've almost doubled in the last 10 years. To, again, put it in perspective, I said I started here in 2002. For whatever reason, I remember the number, we served 343 people. So here we are in 2025, and now we're just over 1,000 to 1,100 people served.
How much of that do you think is just it's becoming more normalized and less?
I can't really give you a percentage, but there's no question that I think we've done a better job of outreach. So we are getting to families and children when they're younger, and so our outreach is better. We're serving more people, which is really what we want. And then I think we can't ignore the growth in the community. So I don't think it's all growth in the community. A sizable portion of it is. There's clearly more people living here, so we're serving more people.
For sure. Good deal.
And I would be remiss if I didn't spend some time talking about, we talked a little bit about what our service coordination, our case managers, we don't call them case managers, but I think that most people will relate to that.
It's easier to,
We've got about 24, 25 people that is their job, is they work with people with disabilities. They help them assess their needs, help them find the funding to pay for their needs, and help them day in and day out to just live in our community. And the importance of that can't be undersold. I know a lot of times people will look at agencies and they think, oh, you're salary heavy, you're people heavy. One of our services is our people. And those folks work really, really hard, and they deeply care about the people they serve. And, they keep coming back every single day on days when, at 5 o'clock, the day may be over, but the worry and the planning and the thought isn't over. And so can't speak highly enough of the work they do either. And I really want to make sure people understand that is a service that we offer.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it sounds like that's, in a sense, that's the only service you provide,
Well said. Well said.
Like,
We
that's
pay
all
for
of-
a lot of services, but that and early intervention is the only service we provide.
Yeah. I mean, just being another human to take care of another human, I guess. Is what I'm, like,
Yeah,
you get all
absolutely.
this stuff that goes with it. And to be honest, I've never understood the like, well, you're salary heavy. Like, yeah, I can get that, but like I've heard that about schools. You have buildings and you have teachers. Everything else is kind of
Right. We're a
know.
people entity.
yeah. To me, it would nothing help. Yeah. Anyway, whole other topic. Yeah. So what is your staff? So those are case managers. You said
We call them service consultants, but
yeah.
most people would relate to them as case managers.
So what's the total?
The total number of. So we are at about 60 to 65 employees right now. Obviously, smaller than we were a year ago with the transition of the preschool, but we're down to about 60 to 65 employees. We don't currently, fingers crossed, have any open positions today,
Yeah.
which is that's a good thing. But we've always got our eyes open because things can change quickly.
You never know. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess another piece of this, when I'm always thinking about community, I usually think about Marysville. So if you're watching this, remember, this is the Union County. So, I always joke that if we cut off south of 42, that seems like Union County to me. We get down into Dublin. And so that's always a weird, like, I feel like here in Richwood, especially compared to Dublin, are very different in a lot of ways.
They are very different. And we serve the entire county, to your point. And, it is easy to get focused on this portion of the county. But one of our strategic planning efforts for the upcoming year is to make sure we're reaching out to the other parts of the county and they know that we're there for them as well. So we are a county entity and working hard to spend more time up in Richwood and other smaller communities within the county.
Yeah. So I'd say at the end of the day, some of this conversation is about the levy, right? And so
every conversation is about the levy right now.
When does that ever stop? But to go back to, we're basically operating on 2002 numbers. And so with that comes a lot of efforts to be conscious of how the money is spent. And so, excuse me. So you mentioned earlier that you're involved in 2 different counties. And so I'm guessing that's part of cost savings.
It is. We constantly look to how can we become more efficient and remain effective. We've done a lot of things over the years, like we have a hybrid workforce, and part of the reason we did that was we could reduce our building costs by about $100,000 a year. So we have a hybrid workforce. We've got drop-in spaces for people. That's one example of things we've done. We look at retirements and people leaving. But to your point, one of the things we've done over the last 10 years is we share my position with the Hardin County Board of DD. It's actually in law that county boards are required to consider the opportunity to share with another county when they have an opening at their superintendent position. And so in 2016, Hardin County Board had an opening and they wanted to consider sharing. We ended up creating a partnership with them, and my position is shared with them. And some people will say, well, how do you do 2 jobs? About half of the job is the same in both counties. So a lot of what we do is connected to state decisions, state initiatives. Well, it's the same for both counties. So it's not really doing 2 completely separate jobs. It's more like if you're a CEO of a company and you have 2 different building locations. It's similar to that. Now, I will say that both boards are planning to separate and each kind of figure out their own needs here at the end of 2026. So and part of the reason for that is when we started this arrangement in 2016, Union County served about 650 people, and I've already shared with you today we're over 1,000. We've grown out of this arrangement, and so the boards are aware and they know that we need to head in that direction, and there's some planning going on around that. I've heard questions about, well, does that mean that Union County money is going to Hardin County? No. The technicality of my employment is that I'm separately employed by each county.
Yeah.
So I'm paid separately. Union County funds never get spent on Hardin County. Hardin County funds never get spent on Union County. That's a law. That's not just, hey, we're careful. That's a law. So Union County funds can't be spent anywhere else, so we're very careful. For a short period of time, we also shared our business manager. Again, the idea that can we be more efficient and effective in how we operate the administrative portion of the work we do. Now, again, we've already talked about the growth. We ended that relationship in 2024 because we had some position changes within our organization, and with the growth, it just became too much. So we ended that relationship with Hardin. We no longer share a business manager with Union. So again, it really is always looking at how are we good stewards of taxpayer dollars? How can we be efficient and effective? It's not just about being frugal. We have to be effective at it also. So we're constantly evaluating that, which is part of what I already shared about the board's planning to separate the current arrangement at the end of 2026.
Good deal. Anything else you want to share with the good folks out there?
I think we've covered the majority of it. I could go on and on about educating about what we do, because I think it's hard for people to wrap their heads around why we exist if they've never used our services. But at this point, I think their eyes are just going to glaze over. So,
well, and part of my goal with this is, the leadership around the community. Hey, come in once a year, have a conversation, what's going on, and save more for later.
Well, and I appreciate the opportunity. I think having worked in 4 other counties, this county in particular collaborates better than any other county I've been a part of.
I've always heard that.
And I know that there are times when people say, well, yeah, that's not what I think. From your perspective, I get it. From my perspective as a county entity, this community really collaborates in a way that I have not experienced.
So you're saying the bar is set low? I'm joking. It is. I think it is high here in terms of, do we collaborate? Do we meet everybody's needs completely from a community perspective? We've got room to grow, but I think as professionals, we work hard to work together for the good of Union County and Marysville, obviously. And I'll leave my stupid jokes out of it for now, but I'll just simply say, Union County is the union of Franklin, Delaware, and which Western county? I can't remember.
Logan,
right? Yeah. Maybe that's why. Because we started with union in mind.
Well, there you go. It's right in the name.
Maybe. I mean, sounds like a joke, but there might be some legitimacy to that.
And I think what's pretty cool about it is, again, I've been a part of it for 23 years. And it's part of the culture, because it hasn't fallen off when people have changed. Yeah. So it is part of the culture.
Fabric, yeah.
We're not perfect, but in terms of how our community entities work together, I can honestly say I can reach out to any of my community partners if we have a need and say, hey, can we have a conversation? And my phone call will be taken. We can set up a meeting, and we may not come up with great solutions, but we'll sit down and work on it.
Yeah. I guess my joke earlier that the bar's set low, I feel like most people probably have the perception that should be an automatic, that everybody gets along and like the county entities get along, and like almost that it should be a law that they have to like support one another. And maybe that's just my perspective, but I've been around enough things to know that's not the normal.
The reality is there's people in all those positions, and people come with baggage and stuff, and it's not always the reality. Yep. And I do believe we are a little bit of a unicorn in Union County with how well we work together.
Yep. Well, that's one of the reasons I chose to stay here and do something like the Good Stuff podcast, because, I think that a lot of people don't appreciate it, or don't have a perspective of it being what we're talking about. And, that's why it's a great place to live, and hope it stays that way for a long time.
Agreed. That's why I'm still here.
Well, thanks for coming in, chatting this. Maybe bright. I don't know if it's sunny yet or not, but thanks for coming to talk.
I appreciate it.
Open invitation. Come chat next year, or I don't know. Keep the conversation going.
That would be excellent. I'd love to come next year and not have to talk about a levy and just get to talk about the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. You can bring the others. They're always entertaining.
And I think it would be a great idea. I think, we have really amazing staff who are dedicated and committed to what we do, but not just what we do, but the community as well. And I would love for them to have the opportunity, although they may be sitting there thinking right now, no, 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 no.
Oh no, that wasn't like you're boring. I need somebody else. That was just a jab. A few of them have said they would, and they haven't.
I would love that.
Yeah, Special Olympics folks, Mark.
Yeah, there
said
you go.
He was going to come on, but I haven't heard from him, so call out there. But yep, always good for more conversation. Well, go out and vote. Love on your
Please.
neighbor.
Support the board of DD. Yeah,
There we go.
it.
Well, thank you again. Thanks for watching. If you've watched this long, obviously, it's something you find interesting. So if you've got some good stuff to talk about, want to come over here and have a chat with me and share your good stuff, I'd love to help you out. Anything we can do for you. Usually everybody that comes on is open to help. That's, again, community building 101. Collaborate and help each other out. So like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, and see you next time.